Hi everyone, and welcome to another Project PANPORN. A lot of people have been looking for Cashmere, and so I thought I would just have her make a quick cameo while she was around. She's not happy. I'm gonna let her go. But anyway, one more. Do you want to say hi? Oh, she's not happy. Okay, you can go now. She started to growl. Anyway, this is a Project PANPORN update. However, I did something bad. Oh, now I'm covered in cat fur. Surprise. I rearranged my Natasha eyeshadow palettes. Are you trying to get into my wigs? Cashmere was inside my wig box not that long ago. Anyway, I rearranged my Natasha eyeshadow palettes. Yay! I completely forgot about doing a Project PANPORN update, so I'm sorry. My Sunset palette does not look like the Sunset palette anymore. However, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my Project PANPORN experience. This was really interesting because I have not focused on an eyeshadow palette for a very long time. You guys might know that I did do pan that palette quite frequently, working on one single eyeshadow palette for an entire year. I don't quite know how I did it looking back, but anyway, I did do Project PANPORN for a while, focusing on an eyeshadow tube over a month, and I have some thoughts, some experiences. I noticed that I started to once again get heavy-handed with my eyeshadow application, which is what I used to do when I was panning a palette and even when I was doing Project PANPORN before, because I was really trying to hit pan. I was like, I gotta show crazy usage. And after a couple of days of that, I was really miserable and I needed to slow down. So I did, and I started doing basically the same simple sort of looks. So this is what my Sunset palette looked like before. I'll just insert a clip here so you can see what the palette looked like when I did do my Project PANPORN re-intro update, whatever you want to call it, because I've done it for so long. It's not a brand new project. So anyway, I used a lot of the metallic shades as a very simple one and done kind of thing, and it was the same thing day in and day out. I really didn't stray much from that for about a week or two, and then I started to get bored, and I didn't catch this at first. I started looking for other things to use. I dug out my MAC Cool Neutrals palette because I started getting bored looking at the very warm eyeshadows, and I started picking that up, and I was like, oh, I'll just incorporate a little bit of this today. And then it started to be a little bit more till I was not using the Sunset palette at all, and I got kind of bored looking at my other Natasha eyeshadow palettes, and they're metallic, so you can easily pop the shadows out and rearrange them, or in my case, rearrange all of them. So that is what I did. And then I thought, oh no, I should have done my Project PANPORN update first and talked about that and shown my Sunset palette and then rearranged everything, but I didn't do that. So I'm going to show you what my Natasha eyeshadow palettes look like now. I'm going to take a month hiatus from Project PANPORN and I will bring it back in January. I've had a few suggestions for palettes that people would like to see. If you would like to see any of my sort of Franken Natasha palettes, I would totally be willing to do that. I've had requests for some of my Urban Decay and some of my Anastasia. I did recently do a palette inventory, which I will link down below if you haven't seen it already, which you can reference if you wish to make recommendations. There's also a list of the palettes in the description box of that video, so if you don't want to watch the whole thing, you can see a list of all the palettes I have in case you want to make a suggestion for Project PANPORN. Like I said, I will be bringing it back in January. Despite what I learned, it just means that I might have to revamp it a little bit and do 2 to 3 weeks instead of a month, because I think that seems to be my cutoff point. I seem to be getting bored, and I don't want to get bored with my makeup. I just had too much fun with it. So anyway, my Natasha Sunset palette. So I will have a side-by-side of what like the actual palette looks like at one point, but this is what my new Natasha eyeshadow palette looks like. It's just a little bit of a deeper version of the Sunset palette. I wasn't really trying to stick with a real particular theme. The palette I wanted to change the most was the Lila palette, and I've been very inspired by the Lila palette. That my Franken Lila palette is what is on my eyes right now, and I just think I'm going to play around with these a little bit over the next month. When I do my Project PANPORN 2020 intro, I will talk about what I used in the month of December as well. So I will mention the palettes I used. If I happen to have any noticeable progress on anything, any accidental pan, I will definitely share that as well. But this is what my palette looks like currently for the Sunset. No more usage than normal in any of these shades, and it's a mix of shadows from the Tropic Palette, Gold Palette, Lila Palette, and the Aries Palette, which is the little 5-pan holiday one, because they're all the same size pans. So I just depotted all of it, just popped out all the pans, and then I rearranged everything. And it was a lot of fun to do, actually. I highly recommend if you are bored with your Natasha palettes, if you happen to have any, that it's really easy to pop them out. And I only had like some little minor incidences popping it out because I wasn't careful, so just be careful. But this is what my palette looks like, my Sunset one, and I am really inspired by this as well. I just needed a little break from the warm tones. I did just mention the little Aries palette, so this is basically the leftover shades, but it's a really nice basic neutral palette. It reminds me a little bit of the Camel palette that Natasha just released, which is basically just really simple neutrals, and that's what this is. So this is like a really good everyday palette for me, and something that I could potentially see myself traveling with. If I didn't use my little singles, I'd take something like this with me because it's got all that I would possibly need for my really basic everyday makeup looks. My Tropic palette. So I really like the packaging of this. I know a lot of people like the pretty Natasha Denona one, and she brought that back, but I like the Tropic one because you can just pop things out in the back, just like a little pin, and you can pop the shadows out. Makes it really, really easy for rearranging things. But anyway, this is what my palette looks like. I'm trying, you can't bend this back, like that was useless. I don't want to have the big full mirror show, so I'm trying to like show this. This is what my new Tropic palette looks like. I kept a lot of the colorful shadows in here. I'm more inspired by that part of the palette than the rest of it. This was sort of like leftover shadows. I definitely could have done a little bit more with this palette if I was trying to really do something with it, but I was more concerned about the Sunset, the Gold, and the Lila than the Tropic, to be honest. But I definitely think I can see some inspiration in there for some colorful looks. When I'm feeling colorful, I especially love like the blues in there, and I wanted to have the yellow in there with the blues because I really like that combination a lot. My Gold palette, so I love the original Gold palette so much, and there was no issue with me there in terms of inspiration, but I love it so much more now, if that was even possible. So this is what my new Gold palette looks like. A lot of similar shadows in here that are originally in the Gold palette, just a few little minor adjustments in here. And I'm very inspired by this as well. This has my sort of favorite assortment of shadows. We have mustardy shades, we have lots of golds, we have some greens, we have limoncello, which is basically my favorite shadow from the Tropic palette. It's just very like duochromatic and gold, green, beautiful, favorite comfortable shades. This is a very comfortable palette for me, and it was to begin with, and now it's just even more so. And finally, the Lila palette, which was my least favorite Natasha Denona palette before. I was just not inspired by it. I never wanted to use it. I'd pick it up and I'd look at it and I would just be so bored by it. Like it looked pretty enough, but it just didn't appeal to me like the other palettes did. And now I think my rearranged version appeals to me the most. It's a lot of the similar shadows, but there's a few different shadows that I threw in here from the other palettes. And there's something about this arrangement now that really speaks to me. Sorry, it is a little dirty. I tried to clean it and I made it worse, which is what I tend to do when I try to clean eyeshadow palettes, which is why I usually leave well enough alone. Some people complain about how dirty they look, but you know what? They're well loved, they're well used, and when I try and clean them, they get this. It gets so much worse. So there are shades from the Tropic palette. Like this shade's all over my lid right now, and we have like that pale purple color, and just a lovely mixture of shades here that I feel like this is what I want the Lila to be. So this is very inspiring to me right now, what I've been reaching for. That, and I still have been working with the MAC Cool Neutrals, and I've been pairing this with the MAC Cool Neutrals. I really just want some cooler tone shadows. Apparently, I think I just got burnt out on the constant warm tones, which is not something I had been used to doing using the same palette, because I haven't really done that over the last year. I can't remember when I did Project PANPORN last, but it's been a while. And I learned a lot over this last month of what I want to do and what I don't want to do going forward, because I still want to see some usage. Like now my Lila palette has no usage on it, and I definitely want to play with this a little bit more and see what kind of looks I can create with my new assortment of shadows. It's the same stuff I already have, but I've just kind of breathed some new life into it, so I'm a little bit more excited to play with it, and I just got that fire back, which I had been missing. It goes in spurts sometimes, and sometimes I get bored, and sometimes I want something new, and sometimes I can create something new with what I already have, and that's just simply what I did by rearranging things just very simply, and I'm very glad that I did that. So anyway, if you're a little bored with your collection, maybe just rearrange things a little bit if it's possible to do so. Organize your single shadows in a different way. Just little things like that can help a lot in terms of creativity and boredom. And that was one of the things I was dealing with, is I was just bored. And that's something that Project PANPORN has taught me again, is that I get bored after a couple of weeks of using the same thing. So I'm not going to force myself to do it, but I do want to see usage on the palettes I have that are either older or things that don't have a lot of usage on it, because it's just nice to see a well-loved collection. And I also really like figuring out what I love and why I love it, because that really informs me going forward. And I don't want to over apply my makeup anymore like I did when I was project panning all the time. When I was panning a palette, I was just really heavy-handed, and I wasn't happy doing it. I was just trying to do it because I thought that's what I had to do. I know people really like to see, you know, the insane usage of things, and I think that's why my panning videos were so popular, was because I was working so hard at using so much product, excessively using product, and I'm moving far away from that. So I think that Project PANPORN is gonna be a really interesting journey over the next year, but I definitely think I will see pan on things. I did see pan on things over the last year. I did finish things, not eyeshadow, but I did finish things without intentionally panning it, and I think that that's what's gonna happen with my eyeshadow as well. I'm just gonna spend a couple of weeks with particular things and just keep rotating through what I have. So anyway, very interesting, very informative month. I look forward to your feedback, your comments, your suggestions for what I do in January. If you have any particular things in mind, I would love to hear from you. It's not that I'm going to abandon my original layout for my Natasha palettes either, and I can definitely still do looks with the same shadows from like the one palette, but I just think it's fun for me, the way that I've been using makeup, to have these rearranged Natasha palettes and see what kind of usage I can get out of them, especially something like the Lila, which I really hadn't touched for a long time. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Again, let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I would really love to hear from you. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I hope we get a chance to chat soon. Bye for now. Hello, baby. You hate the lights, I know. I know you hate the lights so much, I know. I know. Say hello.